The storm outside screamed across the dead world, dust and metal pieces flying like knives. A lone human, Rylan, walked through the dark ruins of an old alien station, his flashlight shaking in his hand. The air smelled like burned metal and old blood. He had come here because of a weak distress signal, one that repeated the same line again and again, "Help." Still alive. "End me quickly." Most scavengers ignored such calls, saying this place was cursed, saying screams still echoed every night. But Rylan was not like others. He had fought in wars, seen friends die, and learned to never leave a voice unanswered. So he came alone, with only his small ship parked outside and a medkit hanging from his belt. As he walked deeper, his scanner beeped, showing a small heat source ahead. His boots crunched on broken glass. Something moved under a pile of blankets and wires. He aimed his light and froze. It was not a human. Under the torn blanket lay an alien girl, her body small and thin, her skin pale blue like the night sky. Her arms and legs were twisted wrong, bones broken, her tail bent in half. Her breathing was shallow, her eyes half open but full of pain. "Still," she whispered, "end me quickly." Rylan dropped to his knees beside her. For a moment he could not speak. She looked young, maybe his sister's age when she died in the war. He saw no weapon, no armor, only torn clothes and blood-soaked metal cuffs around her wrists. He slowly touched her shoulder. "Hey, you're safe now," he said softly. The girl's eyes flickered. "You're human?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "You're real?" Rylan nodded. She let out a weak laugh that turned into a cough. "They broke everything. My bones, my spirit. Please, end it before they come back." His throat tightened. He remembered what soldiers said during the war. Aliens like her were cruel, heartless monsters, but the one lying before him was fragile. Broken, begging for peace, he could not kill her. He opened his medkit and pulled out a pain patch. "Sorry," he said, "I don't end lives." "I save them." She tried to move, shaking her head. "No, you don't understand. They'll come back. They always come back." Her words faded as her eyes rolled back. Rylan felt panic. He checked her pulse, faint but there. Suddenly, his scanner beeped again, multiple signals. Moving fast toward him, he looked at the radar. "Red dots closing in, damn it," he muttered. He grabbed the alien girl and wrapped the blanket around her gently. When he lifted her, she gasped in pain but didn't fight him. From the hall behind him, metallic steps echoed, heavy and sharp. Rylan hid behind a broken beam, holding his breath through a crack. He saw 3 tall alien soldiers, red-armored, carrying plasma rifles. Their eyes glowed, scanning the dark. One hissed. "The experiment escaped," another said coldly. "If the human took her, kill him. The subject must not leave alive." Rylan's chest tightened. "Experiment?" He crawled quietly through a vent with the girl in his arms. His heart pounding, dust filled his helmet, and the girl's weak breathing echoed near his ear. He whispered, "Hold on. I'm getting you out of here." He reached the outside where lightning flashed across the sky. His ship waited, half buried in sand, engines ready. He ran through the storm, boots slipping. The alien girl barely conscious behind him. Shouts and plasma blasts lit up the night. One hit the ground near him. Burning sand into glass, he jumped into his ship, slammed the door and lifted off fast. The engines roared as they broke through the storm clouds. Only then did he look at the girl again, lying pale and still on the medbed. The blanket slipped off her shoulder and Rylan's eyes widened. Her skin was marked with glowing red symbols. Burned deep like brands, they pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. Rylan's scanner started to scream. "Warning! Unknown bioenergy detected." He stepped back in shock. The girl's eyes snapped open, glowing faintly blue. "They didn't just break my bones," she whispered, voice trembling. "They put something inside me." The lights flickered. Alarms began to howl, and Rylan's ship shuddered midair. Something under the girl's skin started to move, glowing brighter and brighter. Rylan stood frozen, staring. Whatever they had done to her, it was waking up. The alarms screamed through the small ship, red lights flashing everywhere. Rylan rushed to the console, his hands flying across the controls. "Power surge detected," the system shouted. He turned toward the medbed where the alien girl lay, her body glowing brighter every second. "Hey, stay with me," he shouted, trying to steady her, but her back arched in pain, light bursting from the red symbols on her skin. The air around her shook, Tools floated for a moment, and sparks danced across the ceiling. Rylan grabbed a shock dampener from his toolkit and pressed it against her wrist. For a few seconds, the glow dimmed, then her eyes opened, glowing faint blue like cold fire. Her voice came weak but clear. "Don't touch me. It's unstable." Rylan ignored her warning and tightened the dampener strap. "I said I'm not letting you die, not after everything," he said firmly. The ship rattled, warning lights flashing. He could feel heat radiating from her body, like standing near an engine core. "What did they do to you?" he asked quietly. The girl's eyes filled with tears. "They put an energy core inside me. A living one. It feeds on pain and fear. If I lose control..." Her voice cracked. "The explosion will wipe everything within 10 kilometers. Rylan froze. 10 kilometers? He repeated. She nodded weakly. He looked around his small ship. It wasn't even 200 meters long. "Then we better keep you calm," he muttered.
He injected her with a neural stabilizer from his medkit.
The light from her body slowly faded, the ship's alarms quieting one by one. She gasped for air, tears sliding down her face. Why would you save me? I begged you to end it." Rylan sat beside her, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Because I've seen enough dying," he said softly. "During the war, I watched humans and aliens kill each other, calling it peace, calling it duty, but all I saw were broken people. Like you." The girl looked at him for a long moment, her eyes uncertain. "You don't even know who I am." He smiled sadly. "I don't need to, I just know you need help." Outside the window, lightning flashed through the storm. Rylan set the autopilot toward a hidden outpost in the nearby asteroid belt, a place he once used to treat wounded refugees. He needed to stabilize her energy core before it went unstable again. Minutes passed in silence, broken only by the sound of the ship's engines. Then she spoke again, her voice quiet. "My name is Lyra. I was taken from my colony 2 years ago. They said they needed test subjects for their new weapon." Rylan frowned. "What kind of weapon?" Lyra looked down at her hands, glowing faintly again. "Me?" she whispered. "They wanted to make living bombs. Creatures that explode under stress, controlled by remote commands." Rylan felt cold. He had seen terrible things during the war, but never something like this. He clenched his fists. "Those monsters turned you into a weapon." Lyra shook her head slowly. "They called it mercy. They said it would end wars faster, but it ended people instead." Suddenly, the radar beeped. 3 red blips appeared. Enemy ships? Closing in fast, Rylan cursed. "They tracked us." Lyra's breathing grew fast, energy marks starting to pulse again. "Rylan! If they catch me, they'll reactivate the core." He stood, grabbing the controls. "Then we don't let them catch you." He switched to manual flight, twisting the ship sharply as plasma shots streaked past the hull. The old freighter shook under the pressure, metal screaming. Rylan fired back with the ship's defense cannons, hitting one pursuer and sending it spiraling into the storm. But 2 more stayed on them, faster and stronger, the computer warned. "Shields at 40%, Lyra groaned. Holding her head, the symbols glowing again. Rylan shouted, "Lyra, focus! Don't let it control you!" She screamed, the glow spreading to her face. "I can't stop it, it's reacting to their signal." Her voice echoed, vibrating through the ship. The lights dimmed, systems flickering. Rylan made a quick choice. He pulled the ship into a dive, heading straight toward the planet's surface again. Through thick clouds of sand and lightning, the pursuing ships followed, firing nonstop. He hit the emergency stabilizers and yelled, "Hold on!" The ship slammed through the atmosphere, heat waves flashing outside, inside. Rylan grabbed Lyra's hand. "Look at me, not them," he said. Her glowing eyes turned to him. "You're not a weapon," he said firmly. "You're alive. And you're going to live for a moment." Everything went silent. Then her glow softened, the red symbols fading to blue. The power surge stopped. The enemy scanners lost track of them in the storm. Rylan exhaled in relief. They crashed into a canyon, smoke rising. But the ship held together as silence returned. Lyra whispered faintly, "You don't even know what you just saved." Rylan looked at her, confused. She turned her head, her voice trembling. "They didn't just put a weapon inside me, Rylan. They put something alive in there." Her eyes closed and her heart monitor beeped weakly. Outside, something huge moved beneath the sand. Something that had felt her energy awaken. The wrecked ship lay half buried in the red canyon, smoke rising from its broken thrusters. Wind howled through the cracks, carrying the smell of burnt metal and storm dust. Inside, Ryland dragged himself to his feet. Coughing hard, his ears rang from the crash. But his first thought was not himself, it was Lyra. She lay on the floor near the medbed, her faint blue skin dimmer than before. The glowing marks on her body flickered weakly. Like dying stars, Ryland knelt beside her, checking her pulse, still there, but faint. "Come on, kid, stay with me," he muttered, pressing a patch to her arm. Her eyes opened halfway, unfocused. "Are we safe?" she whispered. Ryland shook his head. "Not yet." He looked at the scanner, no sign of the enemy ships, but another reading blinked red. Something massive was moving underground. Right below them, the radar trembled, then froze for a second as if the system itself was afraid. Ryland frowned. "What the hell is that?" Before he could react, the ground outside began to shake. Sand poured from the canyon walls and the ship groaned, metal screeching under pressure. Lyra gasped, clutching her chest. "It's here," she said in terror. Her voice was shaking. "They used me to summon it once before. It feeds on the same energy inside me." Ryland froze. "Wait, you mean it's alive because of you?" She nodded, tears in her eyes. "They created it from my cells, from pain and fear. It hunts whatever carries the same energy." The floor trembled again, and then a sound filled the air, deep echoing, like a heartbeat coming from beneath the sand. Ryland looked through the cracked window. The sand rose like water, and something huge pushed upward. A monstrous shape, dark and alive, broke the surface. It had no clear body, just shifting black matter with glowing veins of red. Its form kept changing, as if it couldn't decide what it was. Then two glowing eyes opened, massive. Hungry, aware, Lyra's body started glowing again. Reacting to its presence, she screamed in pain. The red symbols burned brighter, matching the pulse of the creature outside. Ryland grabbed her shoulders. "Stay with me! Don't let it take control." She tried to breathe. "I can't." "It's inside me. It wants out." He looked around desperately, searching for something. He spotted an old plasma rifle near the cargo bay door. Half broken, but still functional. He grabbed it, loading the last cell pack. He looked back at her. "If that thing wants you, it'll have to get through me first." The creature let out a sound, half roar, half scream, and slammed into the ship's hull. Metal bent inward like paper, alarms blaring again. Ryland fired through the viewport, bright blue plasma bolts cutting through the dust. The creature screamed again, retreating slightly but not gone. Each shot only slowed it for seconds. Its black skin closed around the burns. Healing instantly, Lyra crawled toward him, weak but determined. "Ryland, you can't fight it. It's connected to me. If I leave the ship, it will follow me instead." He turned to her, shocked. "You can't even walk." "I don't have to," she whispered. "You just have to let me open the airlock." He hesitated. "No way. I didn't save you just to throw you to that thing." Her eyes filled with tears. "If I stay, it kills both of us." "Maybe more." The ship groaned again, part of the wall caving in, sand pouring through. Ryland clenched his teeth, thinking fast. Then he spotted something on the screen, an old mining shaft nearby. Only half a kilometer east, he had an idea. Risky, but maybe their only chance, he opened the emergency cargo ramp, grabbed Lyra carefully, and ran into the storm. Lightning flashed behind them, the giant creature roaring, shaking the entire canyon. Ryland ran through the sand, his boots sinking deep. Each step was harder than the last, the wind slicing at his face. Lyra whispered weakly, "It's following us." "I can feel it." He didn't look back. He could hear it now, massive and furious, crawling behind them like a moving mountain. Finally, they reached the mining shaft, a dark hole leading deep underground. He jumped inside, sliding down the old metal rails. Sparks flying, they landed roughly at the bottom. Coughing and gasping, the air was thick with dust, but the creature's sounds above were louder. Closer, Ryland looked at Lyra. "Can you still feel it?" She nodded, trembling. "It's calling to me." He placed his hand on her shoulder. "Then we cut the call," he said firmly. He took out a pulse grenade from his belt, a military relic he'd kept since the war. "This thing kills energy links," he said. "If I detonate it close enough, maybe it severs the bond between you and that monster." She stared at him, shocked. "But it will kill you too." He smiled faintly. "I've had worse odds." The ground shook again. The creature's massive claw broke through the ceiling above. Lyra screamed, the light from her body reaching full brightness again. Ryland pulled the grenade pin and whispered, Not today, monster. He threw it upward. The explosion lit the shaft with blinding light. The creature roared, its body collapsing into black mist. The shockwave threw both of them backward. When the light faded, everything was silent again. Only the sound of falling sand echoed. Rylan groaned, looking at Lyra. She was alive, breathing slowly. Her markings now dark, no more glow. He smiled weakly. Looks like we won. But far above, unseen, something red blinked in the storm. An orbital beacon. Locking onto their position, the hunters had found them again. The blast had stopped the creature, but the silence afterward felt wrong. Dust filled the mine shaft, broken rocks falling from above. Rylan sat up slowly, his vision blurry, his ears ringing. He looked at Lyra, lying beside him unconscious but alive. Her glowing marks were gone, leaving pale scars on her blue skin. He touched her cheek gently. "You're safe." "For now," he whispered. Then the radio on his wrist beeped. A faint signal appeared on his screen. An unknown frequency. "Unidentified ship detected nearby," it said in the robotic tone. Rylan frowned. "Great, more company," he muttered. He looked up through the broken shaft. Far above in the thick clouds, bright lights blinked, slowly descending through the storm. A ship, large, sleek military class, not pirate-built, not scavenger, something official. He grabbed Lyra, trying to pull her deeper into the tunnels, but he was too late. A blue beam of light shot down from the sky, sweeping the canyon floor like an eye-searching prey. "Hide," he whispered. He pushed Lyra behind a metal pillar and aimed his rifle at the tunnel's mouth. Moments later, footsteps echoed, heavy and rhythmic. Then he saw them. 5 figures in black exosuits entered the mine, their armor marked with strange silver symbols. Each one carried plasma rifles and a small hovering drone beside them. Their helmets glowed faint blue, faces hidden behind mirrored visors. Rylan held his breath, he whispered to himself. "They're not pirates. They're enforcers." He remembered the stories. Galactic enforcers. Soldiers created after the war to hunt down forbidden tech. They didn't answer to any planet, only to the High Command and the energy inside Lyra. It was definitely forbidden. The leader stepped forward, scanning the area. "Energy reading stable," a robotic voice said. "Subject location confirmed." Rylan's grip tightened on his rifle. He whispered, "Not again. You're not taking her." Before he could act, one of the enforcers turned toward him. "Human, identify yourself," the voice demanded. Rylan raised his weapon slightly. "Just a scavenger trying to survive," he said calmly. The leader tilted his head. "You are harboring a Class A bioweapon. Surrender the subject immediately." Rylan didn't move. "I saved a dying girl, not a weapon," he said sharply. The enforcer's tone didn't change. "The subject is dangerous, uncontained, and unstable. Your act of mercy is a crime under galactic law." Rylan laughed bitterly. "Funny, mercy's always a crime to people like you." He fired first. Blue plasma shot across the tunnel, hitting one enforcer's armor and sending sparks flying. The others reacted instantly, returning fire. Bolts of energy hit the walls, lighting the mine with flashes of blue and red. Rylan rolled behind a beam, firing again, but their armor was too strong. His shots barely scratched them. One drone flew closer, scanning the area. Then suddenly Lyra woke up. Her eyes glowed faintly again, and without thinking, she raised her hand. A burst of invisible energy pulsed out. The drone exploded midair, its metal scattering everywhere. The enforcers froze for a second. Energy spike detected, subject active. One shouted. Rylan grabbed Lyra's arm. "Run!" They dashed deeper into the tunnels, their footsteps echoing. Behind them, the enforcers fired again, the entire shaft shaking from the blasts. They turned into a narrow passage, light flickering. Rylan's heart pounded. Lyra struggled to keep up, gasping, "I can't." "I'll slow you down." He looked at her fiercely. "Not leaving you again. Not ever." They reached an old maintenance door at the end of the tunnel. Rylan kicked it open and both of them stumbled inside. It wasn't a room, it was an old mining control center, full of broken panels and holographic screens. One screen still glowed weakly, showing a map of the canyon system. He studied it fast. "There's a water channel here, leads to an underground exit." Before he could plan further, something unexpected happened. A metallic voice spoke behind them, calm and deep. "Drop your weapon, human. You're surrounded." Rylan spun around, rifle ready. But what he saw made him stop. A tall figure stood there, not an enforcer, not human. Her armor was silver white, and her eyes glowed gold through the cracked helmet. She raised her hand slowly, showing she wasn't aiming a weapon. "I'm not here to harm you," she said. Voice softer now, Rylan didn't lower his gun. "Then why follow us?" The stranger looked at Lyra, her voice trembling. "Because she's not supposed to exist. And neither am I." Lyra blinked weakly, recognizing something. You're one of them." The stranger nodded, removing her helmet, revealing pale silver skin and deep blue eyes. "Yes," she said quietly. "I was one of the first experiments before you?" Rylan looked between them, stunned. "You're saying there are more like her?" The stranger nodded, sadness in her face. "There were, until they erased us." Before Rylan could speak, the sound of heavy steps filled the tunnel again. The enforcers were closing in. The silver-armored woman turned quickly. "You want to save her? Then follow me, I know a way out." Rylan hesitated only for a second, then nodded. He lifted Lyra into his arms. "Lead the way," he said. The stranger activated a hidden passage on the wall, revealing a dark tunnel leading deeper underground. As they entered, the enforcers' voices echoed behind them. "Seal the exits, no one leaves alive." Rylan glanced back one last time. The mine shook as the enforcers fired, dust raining from above. Then the metal door slid shut behind them, plunging them into darkness. Only the golden glow from the stranger's eyes lit the way forward. And for the first time, Rylan realized he wasn't just saving one life anymore. He was stepping into a secret war that humanity was never meant to know. The tunnel stretched endlessly under the canyon, walls covered in old metal veins and humming cables. Rylan followed the silver-skinned woman through the darkness, carrying Lyra in his arms. Her body was still weak, her breathing shallow. Only the soft glow from the stranger's golden eyes lit their path. Every step echoed like a heartbeat behind them. Distant explosions rumbled, enforcers sealing off the tunnels they left behind. Rylan finally spoke. "Mind telling me who you are before we keep running into more death traps?" The woman didn't stop walking. "My name is Saran. I was part of the same project that made her," she said quietly. "The humans called it Project Alaris, but most of us called it something else, the Curse of Light." Rylan frowned. "Project Alaris?" Serene nodded slowly. "It started years before the human-alien war ended, secretly built by both sides. They wanted a living energy source that could destroy entire fleets. Controlled by thought alone." Lyra groaned softly, trying to open her eyes. "I remember the pain, the experiments. They said I was number 8. Saren's eyes softened. "I was number 2, she said. "We were the first generation of weapon-born hybrids, made to channel living cores. But something went wrong. They couldn't control us." Rylan's jaw tightened. "So they tried to erase you," he said bitterly. Serene nodded. "They called it containment. We called it execution." Her voice trembled slightly. "I escaped during the purge. For years I hid down here, searching for the others, but most were destroyed." They reached a large chamber deep below the ground. It looked ancient, like a forgotten lab built into the planet's crust. Old machinery stood silent, lights flickering weakly. Holographic panels showed frozen data, still looping the same message. Alaris core status. Unknown. Rylan gently placed Lyra on a clean metal table. She opened her eyes, looking around weakly. "Where are we?" Serene walked to the control console and brushed dust off the screen. "This is the last place they built us," she said. "Everything that happened to you happened here first." Rylan looked around at the walls covered in strange alien symbols. Some of them looked like the glowing marks that had once burned across Lyra's skin. He stepped closer to one of the panels and touched it. It activated instantly, displaying floating images. Dozens of test chambers, children in tubes glowing with red light, some screaming, some silent. Lyra turned away, trembling. "Stop, please." Rylan quickly shut it down. "I'm sorry," he said softly, but Saren's face was full of cold anger. "They didn't just create weapons, Rylan. They created slaves, made to fight in wars that weren't even ours." She turned toward him. "You think you saved one girl out of kindness, but you saved the last Alaris core, the last living proof of what the High Command did." Rylan stared at her. "So that's why they want her dead?" Or captured, Saren nodded. They can't allow the truth to exist. If people knew what they did, humans and aliens working together to make monsters, every treaty, every alliance would crumble. Lyra's voice broke the silence. Saren, if you escaped, why didn't you destroy this place? Serene looked down. Because part of me still hoped we could fix what they made, she said. I kept this lab alive for years, waiting for one of us to come back. Maybe. You're that reason. Rylan looked between them, his expression softening. Then let's fix it, he said. Whatever they did to you, we'll undo it. We'll make sure you're free. Saren hesitated. You don't understand, Rylan. To remove the core from her body, it could kill her. He clenched his fist. I'll take that chance. Lyra shook her head weakly. No, I don't want to die. Her voice cracked, tears falling from her glowing eyes. I just want to live, like everyone else. The silence that followed was heavy. Rylan looked at Saren. There has to be another way. Saren sighed, walking to a locked panel on the wall. There might be, but it's dangerous. We'd need to reactivate the Alaris stabilizer, the same one that controlled our cores. But it's buried deep under the reactor. Before she could explain further, the entire chamber shook violently. An explosion echoed from above, dust falling from the ceiling. The alarms lit up red. Rylan ran to the scanner. They found us. Saren's golden eyes widened. They must have tracked your ship's signal when it crashed. Rylan grabbed his rifle. Then we fight. Saren handed him a plasma blade from the wall. You fight to survive. I'll get the stabilizer online. Lyra tried to sit up, her voice weak but determined. Rylan, if they come for me again, promise me something. He knelt beside her. What? Don't let me become their weapon again. Rylan's eyes softened. You're not a weapon anymore, Lyra, he said firmly. You're proof that humans can save what others tried to destroy. The chamber's main door burst open, and blinding light flooded the room. Enforcers poured in, weapons raised. Voices shouting commands. Saren shouted, Hold them off! I just need time. Rylan turned, his blade igniting in blue light. He stood in front of Lyra, facing the soldiers with fire in his eyes. Come and take her, he growled. The enforcers advanced, and the battle for the last Alaris core began. Blinding flashes filled the underground lab as the enforcers stormed in. Their rifles fired blue bolts that tore through the air. Burning metal walls, Rylan jumped in front of Lyra, his plasma blade cutting through every shot that came near her. Sparks flew like stars, and the room echoed with the sound of metal and anger. Serene worked at the control console fast, her fingers flying over glowing keys. I need more time, she shouted. Rylan blocked another blast and fired back, his rifle overheating. Time's something we don't have, he yelled. 3 enforcers charged forward. Their armor shining under the red warning lights. Rylan ducked under one swing, slashing across the chest plate. The blade hissed as it melted armor and circuitry. The soldier fell with a crash, but 2 more came from the side. Rylan rolled, his shoulder burning from a glancing hit. He stood again, breathing hard for a moment. He caught sight of Lyra behind him, her eyes glowing faint blue again. Her trembling hands pressed over her heart. Energy lines appeared faintly along her arms. She whispered something. I can help. Rylan shouted back, No! Stay down! But she didn't listen. A burst of light surged from her palms, pushing 2 enforcers back into the wall. The shockwave threw sand and metal everywhere. Lyra gasped in pain, collapsing again. Rylan ran to her side, grabbing her hand. Don't do that again. You'll kill yourself. She shook her head weakly. Better me than everyone else, Serene shouted from the other side. The stabilizer's halfway online. Keep them away. Rylan nodded and turned back toward the entrance. More enforcers entered, led by one taller than the rest. His armor was darker, trimmed in gold. The symbol of the High Command burned into his chest. He spoke with a cold, robotic tone. Human Rylan Cole, former captain. Project Alaris Security Division. Rylan froze. His name echoed through the chaos like thunder. Lyra looked up, confused. Rylan, what did he say? The commander's voice cut through the noise. You think you were a savior, Cole? You were one of us. You guarded this place before it fell. Rylan's heart pounded. He stepped back, his memories flashing. Flashes of white labs, soldiers dragging screaming test subjects, his own hands pushing buttons he never understood. He saw himself watching a blue-skinned child being locked in a containment cell. He had turned away then, telling himself it was for peace, for the end of war. And now that same child was in front of him. Lyra, grown and broken, he whispered, "No." "I didn't know what they were doing." The commander raised his rifle. "You knew enough. And now you're protecting what you once imprisoned." Seren looked up, shocked. "Is it true?" Ryland's eyes burned with guilt. "Yes," he said quietly. "I was part of the team that kept them here. But I left when I saw what they'd done." He gripped his rifle tighter. "And I'm not that man anymore." The commander laughed coldly. "Then die like one," he fired. The blast hit Ryland in the chest. Throwing him backward, he fell hard, the world spinning. Lyra screamed his name, her power flaring again without control. Blue light burst from her body, shaking the entire lab. Seren ran to the console and slammed her hand on a switch. "Stabilizer active!" she shouted. A wave of soft golden light spread through the chamber, wrapping around Lyra's body. Her glow steadied, her screams fading to quiet gasps. But the commander walked through the light unharmed. "Fools. The stabilizer only delays her detonation," he said. He raised his weapon again, aiming at her head. Ryland pushed himself up, coughing blood. He saw the glowing energy pack on the enforcer's chest. "A weak spot. One good hit could overload it," he whispered. "Not today." With the last of his strength, he aimed his plasma pistol and fired. The bolt hit perfectly. The commander's armor lit up like a dying star. A second later, the explosion tore through the tunnel, throwing everyone to the ground. Smoke filled the air, the alarms went silent. When the dust settled, Seren and Lyra crawled toward the fallen human. Ryland lay half-buried under debris, his breathing slow. Lyra pressed her glowing hand to his wound, tears falling. "Please, don't die, you can't die." Ryland opened his eyes weakly. "I told you. I save lives, not end them," he whispered. Serene's voice shook. "The stabilizer's burning out. If we don't shut it down, this whole base will collapse." Ryland grabbed her wrist. "Take her. Get her to the surface." "What about you?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "I still owe her for what I did back then." The walls trembled again above them. The enforcer's ship engines roared. The rest of the squad had arrived. Surrounding the canyon, Seren lifted Lyra onto her shoulders. Guiding her through the tunnel, Lyra looked back at Ryland, crying. He gave her one final nod. "Go live. That's your revenge." As they disappeared into the smoke, Ryland turned back toward the reactor chamber. Limping toward the control core, he placed his bloody hand on the console. "Let's finish this," he whispered. The systems came alive, screens flashing red. In the reflection of the light, his eyes looked calm, not like a soldier, but like a man finally free. Outside, a beam of blue light shot up from the canyon into the clouds. The enforcer's ship scrambled to escape the blast, and for a moment the storm fell silent. Somewhere far below, Lyra felt the warmth fade from her chest. She knew Ryland had made his choice. When Lyra opened her eyes again, everything was silent. The storm was gone, the ground calm, the sky painted with soft purple light. She lay on the sand beside an old escape pod, her body wrapped in a silver blanket. Her vision blurred for a moment before she saw Seren. Sitting nearby, her armor cracked, smoke rising from one shoulder. "You're awake," Seren said quietly, her voice full of exhaustion and relief. Lyra tried to sit up, pain shooting through her ribs. "Ryland," she whispered weakly. Seren looked down, unable to speak. Tears slid down her silver cheeks. He stayed behind to stop the chain reaction. If he hadn't, the explosion would have wiped this entire planet. Lyra's heart sank. She stared at the quiet canyon, the same place that had once echoed with screams and thunder. Now it was peaceful, empty, like the world itself was mourning him. He promised he would save lives, not end them, she said softly, her voice breaking. Seren nodded slowly. "And he did. He saved yours. He saved everyone." The wind blew gently across the sand, carrying a faint shimmer of blue light. Lyra touched the air. It felt warm for a moment. She swore she heard Ryland's voice in the breeze, whispering, "Go live." Seren helped her stand. "We need to move," she said. Lyra looked around. "Move where?" "There's nothing left." Seren pointed toward the horizon. "Not exactly. Look, far in the distance, rising from the red dunes, were figures. dozens of them walking slowly toward the light. Their skin glowed faintly blue, their eyes bright like stars. Lyra gasped. "They're Ilaris?" Serene smiled weakly. "Yes. The stabilizer's blast woke them. The old data said hundreds were lost underground. Looks like they were in stasis all along." As the survivors approached, they surrounded Lyra and Seren, whispering softly in their strange melodic language. One of them, older and taller, stepped forward and looked at Lyra's chest. "You carry the core," he said gently. Lyra looked confused. "I thought it was gone." The elder shook his head. "The human burned out the reactor, but the Ilaris core was bound to your life. You are the last link." Serene's eyes widened. "That means the energy can still be passed or destroyed." The elder nodded. "It can bring light to new worlds, or burn them depending on the heart that carries it." Lyra looked down. Trembling, all her life she'd been called a weapon. A curse, an experiment, but now she could choose what she would become. Her hand glowed faintly blue as she whispered, "I don't want to destroy. I want to heal." The light spread from her hand to the sand below. Tiny sparks bloomed into flowers made of soft luminescent crystal. For the first time, the barren canyon looked alive. The other Ilaris beings knelt quietly, seeing what she had done. Serene placed a hand on Lyra's shoulder, smiling faintly. "Rylan would have liked that," she said. Lyra looked up at the sky. "Then I'll make sure his promise lives forever." Hours later, a small signal blinked from the wreck of Rylan's ship nearby. Serene followed it and found a scorched data chip lodged in the control panel. It still worked. She brought it to Lyra. "It's from him," she said softly. Handing it over, Lyra held it to the side of her head, and a small hologram appeared. Rylan's face. Tired but smiling. "If you're seeing this," he said, his voice calm and steady. "Then I did something right for once. Lyra, listen. Don't waste your life hiding from what they made you. You're not their weapon anymore. You're proof that humans and aliens can save each other." The message flickered, but continued. "I don't know what's next out there, but maybe one day when they tell stories about monsters and heroes, you'll remember a foolish human who couldn't walk away." He smiled faintly. "And maybe that'll be enough." The hologram ended, leaving only silence. Lyra stood still. Staring at where his image had faded, tears fell down her cheeks. But this time they weren't from pain. They were from pride. Seren looked at the horizon again. "What will you do now?" Lyra took a deep breath, her voice stronger than before. "I'll rebuild," she said. "I'll find a way to help others like me. Maybe even teach humans what Rylan taught me. That mercy is stronger than power." Seren smiled faintly. "Then I'll stand beside you." Lyra looked at the crowd of surviving Ilaris. "You all will," she said, raising her glowing hand. A soft light spread through them all, linking their energy like threads of blue silk across the desert. For the first time since their creation, they felt free as the twin suns rose above the horizon, painting the sky in gold and crimson. The last shadows of Project Ilaris faded away, and somewhere deep beneath the surface, in the ruins of the old lab, a quiet hum began. A single heartbeat recorded by the reactor core. Glowing faintly blue, it pulsed once. Then a soft male voice echoed through the static. "Still saving lives." Lyra turned toward the sound, smiling through her tears. "Rest now, Rylan," she whispered. "You kept your promise." The wind carried her words across the shining dunes, and for the first time the cursed world felt alive again. Not from power, not from war, but from hope.